Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast, Paranormal Talk with Heart and Soul. Tonight's segment is streaming, not live. I apologize for that. I just had a little mental block there. It is pre-recorded on United Public Radio Network 107.7 New Orleans, 105.3 the Gulf Coast, YouTube, and any place you find your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Kat Ward. Thank you so much for tuning in with us. So, my dear haunted hearts, for segment 78, you heard that right, 78 episodes with UPRN already. I'm joined by a returning guest and dear friend, Lynda Quirino. Lynda is a passionate researcher, experiencer with a deep interest in the unexplained and paranormal phenomena. Known for her thoughtful insights and open-minded approach, she explores topics ranging from spiritual encounters to mysterious occurrences that challenge conventional understanding. And as I mentioned, she is a return guest, so you might have seen her on past episodes. So today, we couldn't really figure out a topic, so we just decided we're going to have a paranormal open mic. So welcome back, Lynda.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, and I'm really happy to be back. It's so good to see you, and I love talking to you.
I do as well. I think I've mentioned this before to you. I mean, the first time that I met you when we did that investigation in Picton Heights, I think it was called.
Yes.
And then at the time, I didn't really know what team, because Katie set up the whole thing. And then when I saw you, I'm just like, oh my God, this is a lady from the paranormal shows. And I was super excited. And I have to say, I was a little fangirling. I was a little nervous, but the nervousness went away because you were so easy to talk to. You're down to earth. You're such a sweet lady. And I just adore you. And I'm so happy to have you back on the show.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. And you know what? Ditto. You're such a sweetheart. And
oh, thank you.
I love it when we talk paranormal because there's so much to talk about. And
yes,
everything's laid out on the table. Like we can talk about absolutely anything.
Yep.
Not to worry. Nothing is off the table. We're good.
Yeah, like my listeners have heard me say before, when I first started the show 8 years ago now, I used to think paranormal was just ghosts. And then as I got into it a little bit more, I realized, no, there's so many branches to that paranormal tree. That's just so fascinating. And so many people around the world, no matter what culture or anything, they're having these same experiences. So there has to be something to it.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the joy and the beauty of being in this field and doing what we do, because there are so many people that have such of the same experiences. I mean, that commonality of experience is so important, because most people, when they have an experience, as you know, they often say, oh yeah, I'm losing it. Right? I'm bananas. I know I'm bananas.
Yeah.
No, you're not bananas.
I've told some friends, yeah, you're bananas, but what you experience is real.
Well, yeah, that's true too. I know a lot of people who are bananas, but they're fun. So
yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So before we get into it, can you just tell the viewers, because I am growing on the network, so there might be some audience members who don't know who you are. So could you just give us a quick background on like you have your own show and the name of your team and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lynda Quirino. I'm the founder and director of the Georgina Paranormal Society. I've been doing this work for, this year makes 45 years. I know, it's kind of crazy, right?
It is.
I started way back when in Montreal when I was a lot younger. Then when I got married, we moved to Ontario and started in Toronto and then kept moving north. So I ended up in Georgina, and I did do some work with the Toronto Ghosts and Hauntings Research Society. So I was with them for, I don't even remember, I'm going to say about 7 years as their assistant director. And there were so many things that were happening north of the city that I decided, why not start my own paranormal society up here and see what the interest was, and it was phenomenal. So I started the Georgina Paranormal Society in 2012. We have bi-monthly free meetings that are open to the public, and people come and they talk about their experiences. We
That's
have guest
amazing.
speakers. It's so much fun. But yeah, I've done so much. I do a show on Sunday evenings, which is live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's called Paranormally Speaking.
I love that.
I know, right? I
Yeah.
do it with a couple of colleagues, one from Edmonton. Her name's Kathy Rogers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I
Okay.
know. And then the other one is Trevor Palmer, and he is with Western Idaho Paranormal. So that's a lot of fun
Nice.
too. So we have sort of different perspectives, and yet, we all kind of merge and get along really well together. And there's a lot of interesting topics and interesting guests, much like yourself. And yeah, so it's fun. And of course, I was on Paranormal Survivor
Yes.
for 3 seasons, along with Katie Turner and Michelle DeRoche, amongst others. And we had so much fun, like so much fun. It was a great show. And all the cases were actual cases.
One of my UPRN sisters was actually on the. She had an episode about. Oh my God, I can't remember which season it was. I don't want to mention her name because I don't have permission,
Yeah.
But she has her own podcast. She's also on the network, and yeah, so many like that show. It's just amazing how many people I've actually met from the show.
Yeah, it's true. It was a great show. I'm so disappointed that it's not around anymore, but it is in
Yeah.
repeats a lot. So when it's in repeat, I know it's in repeat because I tend to get a lot of, email and all kinds of stuff, which is great because, paranormal issues, people have them. And if they can watch a show like Paranormal Survivor and know that they're not alone in their experiences, that's so
Mhm.
important. So important.
I've even had that experience because if you recall, and I know my audience knows, as a child, I used to see the Hat Man, but he was 4 feet tall. He was a short one. And after I think we lived in that apartment from the age of 5 till I was like 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact age. When we moved away from the apartment, never saw him again, but I've never forgotten him. And then years later, I was watching a podcast and or listening, and I reached out to them and saying, hey, because they were talking about the Hat Man, and I'm just like, because this is way before I got into investigating and having my own show, and I reached out to them saying, hey, I encountered the short one. I didn't even know this entity had a name. It's the first time that I had heard of it. So they sent me a video and said, you need to watch this video on YouTube because this guy in Canada, I don't know where, I've been trying to reach him for years. He reenacted the exact same Hat Man that I saw, the short guy. And for a split second, that childhood terror came back. And then I'm just like, holy crap, somebody else has experienced it. So having shows like all these different paranormal shows, I find is important because, like you said, people realize that they're not alone, that other people are experiencing this too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why when you reach out and as a team leader, I think it's important to reach out to the general public to kind of, do that dance because you need to ask the questions. You need to have a safe space that you can actually share issues and experiences with other people who get it, because so many people don't get it, right? They
Yeah.
make fun of people that have had these experiences, but these are real, and people are sometimes quite traumatized by them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen married couples split because one had an experience and the other one didn't. It didn't believe it, and it just caused so much stress. And then the one who encountered it thought, well, maybe it's in my head, and they were never the same person again. I mean, and it's so sad to see that.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. But
Yeah.
that's why, when you talk about paranormal shows, I always tell people if you're interested in the paranormal, I
Hmm.
think it's important to watch these shows. I mean, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really important because
Exactly.
as you get into the field and you start to do some research and have experiences of your own and talk to other people, you
Hmm.
realize which ones are the good, which ones are the bad, and which ones are the ugly.
Yeah.
you know,
And I feel as humans that the paranormal kind of brings us together because, like I mentioned earlier, and I've mentioned several times, it doesn't matter your religion, your color, like if you're rich or you're poor, people around the world for generations have been having these encounters. So it is fascinating.
yeah, it totally is. And I do think that the commonality is what brings us all together.
Yep.
And so many more people now are interested in it because it's acceptable to be interested in it now. It never
Because of the TV shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It
Yeah.
never used to be that acceptable, but it really is now. And a lot of people who are on teams that I've
Hmm.
met, like newer teams, they'll say that they've learned a lot of their techniques through the shows, which I find fascinating. And they call people out, which is hilarious.
Yep.
But there's so much to talk about, so many techniques and so many new people in the field that I love to see the broadening of the knowledge. It's so great. You're not
Yep.
so stuck. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. And paranormal isn't just ghosts, as you said, it's everything. It's cryptids, it's UFOs and extraterrestrials, and so many more things, which
Hmm.
I'm so excited about. It's just, it doesn't have blinders anymore.
Yeah. Years ago, when I first started hearing about people giving paranormal classes, I used to laugh at that. But then I started thinking, well, if somebody wants to become an investigator, they're going to learn how to investigate. Hopefully, if the instructor is like a good teacher, good investigator, they're going to learn how to properly learn how to investigate. They're going to learn about the equipment. So yeah, after I started thinking about it, it's like, well, I'm sorry for everyone that I ever made fun of, but it's a good idea if they're legit and they're good investigators and teachers.
I agree. But I
Yeah.
also think too that, there's not one way to investigate. I mean, so many people think that they know how to do it, right? And
Yeah.
oh, only I know how to do it the right way. That's not true. There's so many different ways that people investigate, so
Hmm.
many different techniques. And like anything else, it's what resonates with you that matters. And
Yes.
as long as you're making sure you're debunking, you're looking at plausible things, and not jumping to things being paranormal, I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. I have a friend in Newfoundland. He doesn't investigate anymore, but he did also have a podcast. Again, I don't have his permission. I don't want to mention the name or anything, but his specialty was EVPs. I mean, he would go just with a recorder. That was his style, and he used to capture great content. Um, so I know for myself, maybe it's the same with you. Sometimes you go on an investigation and you have say a millimeter and you're not getting anything, but you give it to another team member and it like you're getting everything. So it's almost like it depends on the individual, depends what their vibration is that night. Just there could be so many variables.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And honestly, Equipment is great, and I don't knock it. I think it's fabulous, especially when people want validation. You know, they
Yeah.
want, right? They want those bells and buzzers, and they want those lights to go off and on, and
Yeah.
they love all the sounds that all of these pieces of equipment can make. But I have to say, because I started doing all of this so long ago, um,
Hmm.
and we didn't have all of this equipment. It doesn't really matter if you have all of this equipment. And I say this to people who really want to get into it, and they'll say to me, yeah, but I can't afford all of that expensive equipment. I always say, you don't really need expensive equipment, because your best piece of equipment is yourself.
Yep.
So as long as you remember that, you're aware, your energies are attuned to the environment, your frequencies are kind of perked and peaked, then you're good to go.
Yep.
Because when I first started, I mean, please, I had an Instamatic camera,
Oh my.
remember, with the little flash cubes?
Yes, my mom had one of those.
I had those. And I had a pen and a piece of paper. I had an old tape recorder that ran on batteries, or you could plug it in too.
Hmm. Wow.
And I mean, I really started with the basics, and got some great evidence, even
Hmm.
with just the basics.
Yep.
So honestly, you don't need expensive equipment to begin. If you want to branch out and get a few pieces, that's great too. And
Hmm.
there's always people out there that are getting rid of pieces of equipment too.
Yes. Yeah, I have a cousin. His daughter is wants to get into the paranormal, and he reached out to me on Facebook a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, can you give her like the do's and don'ts?" And it's like, yeah, because I think she's like mid-teens. I can't remember how old she is. So
Wow.
yeah, we had a nice conversation, and I told her rule number one: please don't go by yourself. Not because of ghosts, but say you're investigating wherever you are and you fall down and break a leg. Well, there's nobody there to help you. You should always have the buddy system, in my opinion. And I was telling her you don't have to spend big bucks on equipment. Yeah, it's pretty cool going to those paranormal sites that sell paranormal equipment, but I find they up the price because they make you feel like there's specialty paranormal equipment. I got a FLIR, a thermal imaging camera, years ago from Canadian Tire that was so much cheaper than buying them at a paranormal site. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so my suggestion would be look into seeing what teams are using for equipment, see if you can find it elsewhere for a better price.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have a digital digital thermometer from Canadian Tire, which works really well, really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't have to invest a ton of money
No.
if you want to be a paranormal investigator. And I think primarily, I think what you need to concentrate on too, if you're really interested in the field, is, you've got to start somewhere. You've got to read a lot, right? You've got to
Yeah.
do some research. I mean, that was the first thing that I ever did when I was a kid. After I had my own paranormal experiences when I was a kid, I read about true ghost stories. I read
Me
about,
too.
oh yeah, and I used to read about all kinds of different people. I remember reading John Robert Colombo's books on haunted Canada and paranormal experiences. And then when I was in publishing, because I was in the publishing field, I actually sat next to John Robert Colombo at a dinner.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so great. And we must have talked for 2.5 hours at this dinner. He was incredible and is incredible. He's still alive and kicking, and his books are incredible.
Nice.
And I mean, honestly, doing research and reading about other people who've had experiences is so key to all of this, because honestly, it opens up your mind to the possibilities. It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, how do you personally define the paranormal if you have a personal definition?
um Well, I think the paranormal is anything that makes you question, your reality. I think it's anything that is above or below what you would classify as normal. So it's anything that you can't really define, that you're
Mhm.
interested in learning more about, and that piques your interest to learn more about. I think that is my definition of something that's paranormal.
Yeah, great answer. I totally agree. Can you share one of your most powerful or unforgettable and I can't talk, unforgettable encounters, either if it's your personal experience or if it was from an investigation?
Yeah, I think the most incredible thing to me anyway was to actually see a full-bodied apparition. I'd never seen one up until that point. I'd only experienced certain things. I remember as a kid seeing faces and figures coming in and out and kind of teasing me and making me laugh as a child, which was great because they weren't scary ghosts. But I'd never seen a full-bodied apparition until I actually went to an investigation in a place called Mount Albert, which is north of Toronto.
Hmm.
A lot of old houses in the old part of Mount Albert. And this particular woman who lived there had been experiencing an apparition on the stairs and in her washroom, which I thought was interesting. So I had gone with a team and we had set up our video cameras. And at the time, because it was like early 90s,
Hmm.
it was very, basic equipment. But I was stationed at the bottom of the staircase. Other people were upstairs. Some people were in another room monitoring what was going on.
Hmm.
We set up all night, like all night. So we had our little video camera going. We had our tape recorders going. We had a motion sensor, very basic. And honestly, nothing happened all night.
Ah.
I know. It's always like that. So around 5 o'clock in the morning, we were all tired, really tired. I mean, there's
Mm.
only so many chocolate covered coffee beans that a person can
I
eat.
love those. Oh my God. Yeah.
But anyway, so we figured, okay, it's 5 o'clock. We need coffee. So people were taking things down. They took the video camera down. And so I was still stationed at the bottom of the stairs with this other girl,
Mhm.
shall remain anonymous because she's like, don't want anything to do with it. Don't want. This terrified her.
Oh.
It terrified her because everybody left, and I'm sure you can picture it, the old houses where the staircase was located sort of near the front door, in
Kind
the
of narrow too.
right,
Not very wide. Yeah.
not very wide. So we were at the bottom of the stairs and we were just kind of talking about, the nothing that happened all night. Um, and we were just standing there, the only ones in the house. And all of a sudden, the temperature dropped dramatically. I mean,
Hmm.
dramatically. This was in the summertime and it was warm. Old house, no air conditioning.
Yeah.
It was hot. And then all of a sudden, it was cold. But we're talking really cold. And we looked at each other as if to say, okay, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And for sure, something did. All of a sudden, this woman, as solid as you or me, literally came down the stairs and was gliding down the stairs. And I say that because she glided down the stairs, very focused on the front door. So she didn't look at us, very
Hmm.
focused on the front door, and then went right through the front door.
Do you think that was residual?
I believe that it probably was,
Yep.
but she had no feet. That was the most incredible thing. She had absolutely no feet, but she was as solid as you and me. I think this was probably a residual, because even the woman who lived there didn't really have an encounter with her, couldn't really speak to her.
Hmm.
So I think it probably was.
Yep.
But wow, what a residual energy that was.
No kidding.
It was
When you
incredible.
when you were talking about her coming down the stairs, I was actually picturing she didn't have any feet. So when you mentioned she didn't have any feet, I was just like, oh, wow.
No feet. And it was
Wow.
really interesting because as a paranormal investigator, it's amazing how something inside of you takes over because
Yeah.
when it happened, I looked over to the girl that I was with and she looked at me and she was just about to say something. And I said, write it down and I'll write down what I saw. Don't tell me what you saw. So we spent the next, 5 minutes writing down what we saw
To
and then we
compare notes.
notebooks.
Wow.
And it was like, oh my God. So when that happens and you have somebody there with you,
Mm-hmm.
to corroborate, right, what actually took place, that's so key. And when you were talking about don't go alone on a paranormal investigation, because
Yeah.
you might hurt yourself or fall. In this case, yeah, don't go alone because there's always somebody there with you to
Yes.
corroborate, to
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, she's not alone. I saw exactly what she saw. So that
Wow.
changed me for a very long time because I'd never seen anything like that.
Mm.
So when people say, oh, I don't believe in ghosts or that, ghosts and spirits, yeah, right, sure. Oh, yeah, they exist. They
Yep.
exist.
Do you remember what she was wearing?
I do. It
Do
was,
tell.
oh my gosh. So it was a gray dress and she was quite portly. And it was a gray dress, and she had on an apron, but it was just an apron like from the waist down.
Okay. Yep.
Um, but that was what I remember. She had her hair pulled back, and it was like in a bun at the nape of her neck,
Mm-hmm.
and she was just focused on just walking down those stairs and out that front door. Pretty incredible. And I remember saying to a colleague at the time, I'm sure it's because this is what she did probably every single day of her life.
Yep.
And it was the focus, it was the energy. She was obviously a very strong energy
Mm-hmm.
life. So that's definitely an imprint of her, her energy, that energetic
Yep.
sort of imprint right into the ether. It was just quite amazing. I've never seen anything like that before.
Other than the temperature change, do you recall if there was any strange smells or sounds?
Um, it all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, the temperature change was the thing that I remember the most.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't remember there being a smell. I don't remember anything like that. Although I do somehow remember that the atmosphere was really charged. Like it felt like there was an electricity in the
Mm-hmm.
and I it was hard to it's hard to kind of put into words, but it's almost like when you go to the science center and you put your fingers on that thing that
Yeah. Yeah. And then your hair goes out.
yeah, it was kind of like that. But what I do remember too was as soon as she went through the front door, the
Mm.
temperature just dropped like a stone again, or rose like a stone because it was
Oh,
so
yeah.
hot
Yeah.
that day, right? That all of a sudden it went from being very cold to being excruciatingly hot again.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was amazing too, because for all of those years prior, I remember encountering cold spots and talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
But this was me actually experiencing, that incredible cold that people talk about when they experience that kind of an apparition. So
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing.
Have you ever seen anything like that again?
Nothing that dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, oh my gosh, mist anomalies, orb anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen partial apparitions, but nothing like that.
Hmm.
That was incredible. The only thing missing were her feet.
Yeah, that's wild. No, when you mentioned the orb anomalies, did you see them physically with your eyes, or were they on camera? Or
Yes, it's interesting. One of the very first investigations that my team did, um, we saw many orbs with our naked eye. Of course, we saw them on our pictures after they,
Mm-hmm.
well, you know how that always happens. You don't see them, and then all of a sudden you're looking at your pictures, and there they are. So
Yep.
we saw some of those as well, but we did see many with our naked eye, and it was really interesting when that happened because you never think that you're going to see that, and you always doubt that
Yeah.
you're actually seeing what you're seeing. And they're
Mm-hmm.
large. I mean, these weren't tiny little orbs. These were massive orbs. And
Wow.
it was really interesting because one of them in particular, my assistant director at the time, she took a picture of it. And when because we both saw it, and she
Mm.
just snapped it. And when we looked at it, you could literally see a face in the middle of the orb.
I've heard of that happening. Yeah. Isn't
Amazing.
that amazing?
It really is. It really is. And I do remember reading something about, I'm going to say 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
about orb anomalies and how some investigators truly believe that, yes, they are sort of energetic anomalies for
Mm-hmm.
sure, but they're also akin to DNA. So when you look at them, they look like DNA,
Ah.
which is really interesting because if you think about them as ghosts, as sort of residuals of or leftovers of people
Mm-hmm.
who were alive, we all have a DNA sort of energetic kind of imprint, and that really was fascinating to me, really fascinating because they do kind of look like DNA.
I've never even thought of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
When when people ask me about like especially people who don't really believe in the paranormal, and I just say you can just feel the energies, you can feel the entities, and they're like, "How can you feel something like that?" I'm like, "Have you ever been close to an electric fence that was actually on?" They're like, "Yeah." The closer you get to it, you're going to feel the energy, right? Then they're just like, "Oh yeah, I guess."
Exactly. It's so true. It's like when
Yeah.
you're out in a thunderstorm,
Yeah.
right? And those incredible like bolts of lightning, you can
Mhm.
feel the energy from that. And you don't have to be that sensitive to feel it.
No. I remember years ago, I was in a car accident and I had severe whiplash. It was horrible. And one of the treatments that I had was acupuncture. And my acupuncturist, sometimes he would attach little, he'd put current through it, right? And just to help. And one day he didn't, and I didn't know. I'm like, "Oh, you put the current on. You didn't let me know." He goes, "No, I didn't. There was a thunderstorm coming in." And I felt the little needles were picking it up and I could feel it in my skin. And I said, "Isn't that weird?" He goes, "No, every once in a while I have a patient that is that sensitive that they can pick up, you know, the thunder and lightning, like the storm coming." And I'm just like, "Wow, that's amazing. All that energy coming in and I'm feeling it through the needles."
That's pretty cool. I like
Yeah.
That's really cool. But it
Yeah.
just goes to show you that there's so many things that we don't really understand. And until we experience them, we don't really get it.
Yeah.
It's so true. I mean, how many people come to our meetings with somebody else who's interested in the paranormal, but they're kind of skeptical, and they'll say things like, "Yeah, how's that possible?" Or, but until they actually experience it,
Yeah.
and this actually happened at one of our meetings. Somebody came to our first and second meeting and was very skeptical and asked all kinds of questions. And then we didn't see them for a few meetings. And then the next year they came back and they said, "Okay, so I had something happen to me." And at the first meeting, you were talking to this lady who was talking about, having this experience of not being able to move, that, right, at night,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
having that paralysis, a sleep paralysis. Well, holy crap, that happened to me. And not only did it happen to me, but that night I actually saw what I think was, a dark energy in my room. So that was kind of cool. I thought, yeah, you really don't know until you experience something you can't explain. So true.
Yeah, and I love when people who don't believe in it later on they'll say, but there was this one time, and it's always the same sentence that people use for so many people. There was this one time. It's so funny. Like,
It's true. It's true, right?
yeah, yeah.
I love that. I know. It's true.
So
It's
what kind of entities, if any, or energies have you come across most often?
um I'm going to say the energies, especially intelligent hauntings. We do a
Hmm.
lot of investigations where there are intelligent hauntings. So,
Yep.
a person who might have lived in the area, or someone who is enamored of the land and doesn't want to leave, that kind of thing. So we tend to encounter a lot of that, a
Hmm.
lot of intelligent energies that we can speak with, that we definitely can communicate with at different levels. And on our team, we have a clairvoyant who is very, very talented, incredibly sensitive. And she is kind of like, oh gosh, remember that that show, again, another paranormal show where the two ladies would, oh gosh, what was it called? I think you probably know which one I mean. There were two ladies that used to send people on, rescue mediums.
Oh, yeah.
Rescue mediums.
That's what this lady did.
She's very much like that. She
Oh,
will,
wow.
yeah, so she'll be able to connect with them, find out a little bit about them. We, of course, use a lot of our equipment to try and communicate at some level, maybe get a name. But she's pretty good at figuring out the names. But if
Hmm.
she knows that they're troubled and they can't move on, she will help them move on, which is the most incredible thing I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now you yourself have abilities, right?
I do. I have a few.
Can you
Probably
can you
just,
tell us about them?
well, yeah, I'm very sensitive. I can usually tell when a particular area is active just because I've been doing this for such a long period of time.
Hmm.
I do have moments of, I'm going to say, psychic clarity. Where
Yeah.
I just get a name, or I walk into a particular situation and I know either what's going to happen, or a glimpse of what happened in that particular area. Um,
Hmm.
they come and go, but I think that doing this work has probably helped attune that part of me that was rather dormant when I was a
Hmm.
lot younger. So, but I do. I'll accept it. This is good. I keep telling the universe, whatever I need to know, I'm open. It's
Yep.
good. You can
Yeah.
tell me.
I kind of compare it. Have you ever watched Doctor Who?
I have on occasion.
Okay.
On
I used
occasion.
to watch all of the, like, I just love that show. And I remember there's a few times that, so when you have Doctor Who and his companion traveling, once the companion has been off Earth and gone to different times and dimensions and all that, that certain alien species will actually recognize that that person, I guess there's kind of like almost like a light about them that they know that they've left Earth before. And I kind of feel that way about the paranormal, that once you start opening your mind and accepting it, then you're going to have more encounters.
I think that's very true. I think that, well, I do think that we all have a light about us. And I do think that those who have passed on are able to see which ones of us are
Mhm.
perhaps more sensitive to
Yep.
our surroundings, our frequencies,
Hmm.
because really it's all about that. It's all about
Yeah.
our environment and our frequencies and how we can attune to those frequencies.
Hmm.
And sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not, like a psychic medium. Sometimes they're really good, and
Yeah.
sometimes the connection is just not there.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, I agree with you. As a matter of fact, really interesting. A few years ago, we connected with this gentleman from the UK who was having a lot of experiences that he couldn't understand.
Hmm.
And then as he progressed through, and I'm going to say through because it's kind of like a journey, right?
Yep.
So as he progressed through all of these things that he was experiencing, he was beginning to get messages from, I believe, his guides, people that were around him, people that meant him no harm, but they basically told him exactly what we've been talking about, that we all have a specific light. And there are entities and energies around us all the time that can read those lights, that go to those lights, that are attracted to them. And sometimes the energies out there are great. They're friendly. And sometimes those energies out there are kind of like, those people that call you during the day and say, "Hey, hello, I'd like to come to your house and I don't know, maybe look at your water tank."
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to take advantage of you.
Yep.
What
Yep.
I mean, right? So you have to understand and feel which energies are within your wavelength and which ones you can let in and which ones are friendly, which ones are not so friendly, which is why, you always have to protect yourself when you're going out and doing this kind of work. And a lot of people who start doing this work don't get it, and they don't protect themselves, and they get in a lot of bad doo-doo.
So how do you protect yourself when you're dealing specifically with unknown energies or just any energy in general?
Well, I like to sort of put a shield up around me. It's kind of like on Star Trek, right? You
Yeah.
put a little energy field, or if you're a fan of like Get Smart, you're under that dome,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cone. I like to call it that sort of energetic cone because I think it's important, like anything else, to protect your energy. So that's what I do. And what I do is I visualize myself surrounded by a really brilliant white light of protection. And what I also do is I try to envision that sort of cone around me that has a mirror on the other side. So that anything around me can see itself. And if it's attracted to it and it's okay with it and it knows that it's good and it's not going to do me any harm, and if I feel that, that's fine. But if it's not good, it's going to look at itself and it's going to know it's not so good and it's going to go away. So that's usually how I do it. And all of my team members have various ways of doing it. Some will pray because that's very calming and obviously meaningful to them. And it makes them feel protected. And I think whatever you do that makes you feel protected from anything that, wants to do you any harm is a good thing.
I've been saying for years that if you're holding up a fork and you believe that fork is going to repel negative entities and energies because you believe it, it's going to work. So I feel that it's just it's your intent and how you're going to get your energies to vibrate.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's absolutely true. And everybody's different.
Yep.
Like we were saying, there's not one way to investigate.
Yeah.
Well, there's really not one way to protect yourself. The only thing you have to do is the intention has to be to protect yourself, to surround yourself with some kind of protection so you know that nothing is going to come in and bother you.
I've mentioned on the show before that when we lived in Alberta, my husband and I had to take our daughter to Edmonton Hospital for some brain scans. Everything was fine. Doctor was just she was just really thorough about everything. And so she was going to be at least an hour. So my husband and I just walked around the hospital. And all of a sudden, he noticed a change in me. He goes, what's wrong? And all I could say is, children, so many children, too many children. He goes, what? I'm like, there's so many children around. Like, I don't know why I'm only picking up on children. And like they were swooping in because they're like, hey, hi, you know we're here. And then my husband says, turn around. I'm like, what? We were in the children's hospital and I didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
So my husband held my hand because I needed that extra strength. And I had to tell them, like, you can come say hi, but you're getting too close and it's very overwhelming. Like I can't handle all of you. And they did back off. They followed us, and it was, I'd never sensed anything that intense before, like just being so overwhelmed. And it's like, yeah, could you please back off?
That's
That was
incredible.
crazy.
That's incredible. Well, you know what? My cat is meowing at the door. Hold on for 1 second.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You
Out.
got to, you have to bring Ophelia in.
Oh, well, Ophelia needs out of the bedroom.
Oh, out of the bedroom. Okay.
She was with us the whole time, and she was
Oh,
with
wow.
me. And then when we started to talk about energies, she's like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So, are there signs people should watch out for that indicate something just isn't right?
I always tell people you have to trust your instincts. And a lot of people don't trust their instincts at all. I mean, and sometimes
Yeah.
I'm not good at it either, especially if I'm not feeling well,
Yeah.
or something's just not right.
There's self-doubt too, like,
Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly. But I think if you know that something is not right in a specific area,
Mhm.
um, stay away or put up more protection. If you really need to be there, put up more protection.
Mhm.
And I always tell people that they have to be aware of where they are. I mean, be hypersensitive, be aware of where you are.
Yep.
And if anything should happen, have a plan. You always have to have a plan.
Yep.
But when you're doing this kind of work, it's very important to trust your gut. And I think, you have to be prepared. Never go on an investigation or be involved in any kind of, divination work or anything like that.
Mhm.
If you're not feeling your best, if you're
Yep.
feeling weak in any way, I mean, something is going to sense that you're weak because your barrier will be weak. So
Yep.
make sure your barriers are strong. And I think that's probably the best advice that I could give someone.
Mhm. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's a few times we've done investigations, and the night of the investigation, I would message Katie and say, "I can't go tonight because I'm either not in the right frame of mind, I don't feel good, just something tells me not to go, whatever." And the whole team are just like, "Oh, you should come." I'm just like, "No, it's not that I don't want to go, but I shouldn't go." And then they respect that, it's like because it's for everybody's safety.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I know a lot of people find themselves in trouble often
Yep.
when, they don't trust their instincts and, against their better judgment, they go on an investigation and get involved in something that they shouldn't.
Hmm.
Um, because, there are nefarious people that will
Hmm.
um, put up roadblocks for you. And
Yep.
I mean, yourself. I mean, half the time when you do an investigation, it's because somebody has brought something in.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
sometimes it's, because they've used a spirit board or they've done some sort of divination and they weren't prepared and they don't understand it. And something came in and didn't want to leave. So,
Yep.
if you're vulnerable, they're going to know that you're vulnerable. And yeah, it's just not going to
Yep.
work. It's just not going to work.
I've always taken a page out of Katie Turner's book when people say, well, the place has been cleansed and it keeps coming back. Well, one of the issues could be that you subconsciously want it to come back, but there's also, and I love how she explains this, when you sweep your floor, doesn't mean dirt, you're not going to bring in dirt from someplace else. You
Yes.
still have to sweep your floor. What's the same thing with saging?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so true. And
Yeah.
we've dealt with so many people that love to create this. They love it.
Yeah.
So they invite it all in. They have us come out. We
Hmm.
make sure that we clear everything. Everything is great. It feels wonderful. 6 months later, we're back again.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you buggers for punishment?
Yeah. I've told parents before that you have to use your mom or your dad voice telling these entities that they're not welcome because your babies are being terrorized. You got to use your parent voice, and then they realize, oh, okay, and then we haven't been called back.
That's so true. That is so true. I have to say, it's really interesting because not too long ago, we had um, a guest speaker at one of our
Mhm.
meetings, and she's a real estate agent. She doesn't live in the area anymore. She moved out west.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things that she used to offer to her clients was a clearing of the home.
I love that.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So when they bought a home, she would go in with them and she would clear the home. And she would specifically say to them, you need to talk to your house. You need to
Mhm.
introduce yourself
Yep.
to your new house. So once it was clean, once the energies were really good and it felt atmospherically so much lighter,
Mhm.
she would encourage them to talk to the house. And I thought that was the most wonderful thing because really it's
Yeah.
your own environment. And when
Yeah.
something comes into your own environment, and we say this to everyone, you
Mhm.
know, you need to take back your house. You need to talk
Yep.
to whoever's there and say, okay, I'm not comfortable with you here. So get out.
Mhm. Yeah, because this is my house now, not yours, you know, because can you imagine, like, you're just sitting in your house and somebody just comes in, it's just like, "What are you doing?" Like
Right? It's true. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, people are funny because they'll talk about experiences that they've had,
Mhm.
and they don't understand how powerful they are. I mean, we are really powerful.
Yep.
And our voices are powerful. Our intentions are powerful.
Mhm.
But so many people are kind of battered down, and we're all told, you're nothing special. Well, you actually are. And where you live is imprinted with your energy. All your stuff has your
Yeah.
energy on it. So, how dare something come in and want to interact with all of my stuff?
Yeah, right?
Right? So you have to find your voice and take it back. And if that doesn't help and if that doesn't work, then absolutely call for reinforcements.
Yeah,
That's what we really are, is reinforcements for a lot of
yeah.
people, right? Yeah.
Do you think different cultures experience paranormal differently, or are they pretty much similar?
I think there's a lot of similarities. I think culturally, the way that they deal with it or how they define it
Yeah.
is different. But I think experiences like, disembodied voices,
Yeah.
seeing things in the corner of your room, like the Hat Man and all of that. I think multiple cultures experience that, but how they define it is just different. And
Mhm.
sometimes how they deal with it is different.
Yeah.
I do know that as a paranormal investigator, when we go into a house and we're dealing with a residential haunting, we always ask them, what is your cultural background?
Yeah.
Do you have or practice any kind of, religious anything? What's your religious persuasion, if any?
Mhm.
So that we know what we're dealing with. We do our research. And culturally, it's really interesting because we did do it was really interesting, actually. We did do an investigation where there was a lot of residual stuff going on. So
Mhm.
they had torn walls out and did all kinds of stuff. And of course, the person who owned the home, who was deceased, had built it by hand and was really ticked off with what they were doing. But there were residual energies as well as this poor old man who was really upset that his bookcase was torn down and
Oh, yeah.
that he built, right? But there were residual energies there as well. But the people who owned the home were very much influenced by feng shui and used feng shui in
Mhm.
order to block certain energies, deflect certain energies.
Yep.
So a lot of the residual energies that were finding ways of interacting and being present and upsetting the family, they were dealt with through feng shui. So
Mhm.
they were deflected, they were moved, they were even blocked in some cases. So there were different cures that they used for energies. Like there was chi energy, which is good energy. There was sha energy, which was bad energy.
Mm.
So, you learn a lot when you're a paranormal investigator.
You do.
You really do. I love that part of what we do.
Because there's some cultures you got to use holy water to cleanse. You got to use sage. I know some nationalities actually use bells
Yes.
and dance. And they twirl around. So yeah, it's really interesting on how some cultures, um, to have the same result, will use different methods.
Yeah, it's really interesting because where we live, um, we're north of Toronto in
Mm-hmm.
Georgina, and we're on Lake Simcoe. And
Nice.
yeah, it's really beautiful up here. I mean, gorgeous, highly influenced by all of those things that the water brings. And we have Georgina Island up here, and the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation are here and have been here forever. So we do have a lot of Indigenous energy in the area. So some of
Mm-hmm.
the hauntings and some of what we experience is incredibly rich in sort of indigenous history and
Mm-hmm.
legend and lore. So some of the hauntings require us to use that energy and tap into that energy in order to understand what's going on and to
Mm-hmm.
clear it. And one of those it was just incredible. A new house was having fires started in their living room.
Wow.
Like nobody could get in. They were a professional couple. They would come home to a little tiny fire started in the middle of their living room.
Oh no.
Yeah, little smoldering fire, which of
Yeah.
course destroyed their, a part of their beautiful wood floor.
Oh.
They would have to get fixed, I think, 3 times. But it was interesting because none of the smoke detectors or smoke alarms went off, which was
Huh.
really odd. But they came back to these little fires in the middle of their living room. They had set a camera up, and it was weird because it recorded the middle of the living room, and then all of a sudden the camera kind of fell up and started recording the ceiling.
Huh.
So yeah, it was very,
Something knocked it. Yeah.
something knocked it over, but there was nobody there. They had no pets. They were a professional couple, came home to these little fires. Anyway, they said that on occasion they would hear drums. They would hear drumming.
Yep.
And if that whole subdivision is built on land likely owned by the Chippewas,
Yep.
like occupied by the Chippewas, I should have said. And it was cleared. So all the trees were taken down. There was
Oh.
steel put in, all that stuff. So what we did was we reached out to a shaman in the area who came in and
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed the problem and basically said that yes, the elementals were very upset, but these were not fires to upset them. These were fires to purify,
Oh.
which I thought was interesting. And he was given specific instructions
Mm-hmm.
to leave out a gift of tobacco and fruit and all kinds of things, to plant a tree in the backyard, to bring in some stones to honor, right, the spirits of the land. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting that everything stopped. But what this gentleman said was, this is not the only home here that's going to experience issues because of what has happened and what has
Hmm.
taken place. And it's so true because since then, we've heard of at least 5 or 6 other homes in that subdivision
Wow.
having some issues. But it was the indigenous factor, which we
Mm-hmm.
so educational and so interesting and so vital, right, to
Yeah.
the solving of what was going on. So
Yeah.
it's just, you never stop learning in this
No.
field.
Yeah, I totally believe that once you understand what the energy is, then you're going to get the appropriate help to find it. Like, I mean, if you have I don't know, if you have to have tonsillitis, like if you have problems with your tonsils, you're not going to go see a stomach doctor. Like, you got to figure out what's going on and then get the appropriate specialist, I guess.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
absolutely true. But it's so incredible what, as a paranormal investigator, people think you do as opposed to what you actually do.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny.
It's kind of cool, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, Lynda, we are at the end already.
Do you believe that?
I know. Oh, thank you, honey. Sorry. My husband just brought me a beverage.
Oh,
I can't believe an hour went by. Like, I think every show, like, I look at the time, I'm like, oh my God.
right?
So, could you please tell the audience where they can find you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure, absolutely. You can follow us on Facebook, Georgina Paranormal Society.
Mhm.
You can go to our website, Georgina Paranormal Society.weebly.com, or you can email us, georginaparanormal@gmail.com. Yeah, you can just find me online. Google Lynda Quirino. I'm sure a lot of things will come up. But however you find us, thank you for doing so. And Kat, it was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, pleasure is mine as well. I always love talking to you, and we don't do it enough.
We'll do this again. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
definitely. You're very welcome. So if you have a few minutes, hang tight. I'm going to say farewell to the audience, and then I will just have a quick little chat.
Perfect.
So a huge thank you to my special guest and dear friend Lynda Quirino, and to you, my wonderful haunted hearts, for tuning in. And I also want to thank UPRN 107.7 New Orleans and 105.3 the Gulf Coast for carrying the show. And if you enjoyed tonight's episode and any other episodes, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It truly does mean the world to me. And if you'd like to be on the show, have guest or topic ideas, or just want to say hello, drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. So until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. Much love to you all.